Chapter 425. Twisted Rock. Soon, the vile creature drew close to the twisted rock. It crouched near the vertical stone wall of the floating island, giggled, and then suddenly shot upward, jumping no less than 20 meters high. Its talons pierced the weathered stone, and the abomination nimbly climbed up, soon disappearing from view. Far below, on the rusted surface of the damaged heavenly chain, a hunched human figure suddenly appeared from the deep shadows. Sunny felt the chain sway as the island rose higher and higher, then looked up with a dark expression. In this direction, Twisted Rock was the last piece of land before the empty expanse of the tear. It also only had one iron tether connecting it to the rest of the chained isles, so now that the bizarre monstrosity was up there, it had nowhere else to run. With a pained grimace, Sunny summoned the Moonlight Shard, cut one of the straps off his pack, then tied it around his neck to create a makeshift sling for his broken arm. He was going to have to set the bones and make a proper splint later, but for now, this was going to have to do. With his arm secured and cradled against his chest, Sunny waited a few seconds for the sharp pain to subside, then activated the Darkwing and used the Prowling Thorn to fly up the overhanging slope of the stone island. The dragonfly cloak only allowed him to levitate if there was a surface beneath it to support the enchantment. If there wasn't, he was only able to slowly glide down instead of falling without any control. So to travel up, he had to either push off of something or pull himself toward something. The Prowling Thorn made that process easier. Due to the burden of the early stages of the crushing, Sunny had to exert more strength than usual to propel himself upward. After using the heavy kunai to do so several times, he finally crested the edge of the Twisted Rock and soared a few meters above it. The Twisted Rock was a dreadful and miserable place. The island was rather small, and all of its surface was nothing but an uneven expanse of dark stone. That stone, however, looked really strange. It was as if once, a long time ago, it had been melted by unimaginable heat, and then abruptly solidified again, creating strange shapes and swirls. Here and there, blackened bones protruded from the molten stone, telling the tale of countless humans and beasts who had drowned in that scorching inferno. The sight of them was eerie and disturbing, like something torn from the actual hell. Thrown down by the crushing, Sunny landed heavily on the dark stone and swayed, then supported himself with the shaft of the cruel sight. His graceless arrival made enough noise to attract the attention of the chest fiend, who was crouched a dozen or so meters away. The creature froze, then turned around and faced him. Sunny scowled. A mangled corpse of a chain worm was hanging from beneath the half-closed lid of the chest. As the creature turned, the tail and claws of the dead fallen demon scraped across the molten stone. The bizarre abomination stared at Sunny for a few moments, then opened its maw and swallowed the remainder of the chain worm whole. Despite the fact that the demon was at least 5 times bigger than the chest that served the fiend as the head, it somehow disappeared inside without leaving a trace. The creature licked the blood off its sharp teeth and giggled. This time its laugh sounded rather hateful. A cold smile appeared on Sunny's lips. "Right back at you, bastard." As the fiend rose to its feet, towering above Sunny menacingly at full 3 meters of height, the cruel sight shifted and turned it into a somber short sword. Its silver blade gleamed, seemingly absorbing the bright sunlight. The heavenly chain rattled below, and as its rusted links scraped against each other, the Twisted Rock continued to ascend. The smile disappeared from Sunny's face. Staring at the gluttonous abomination, he couldn't help but feel a bit of fear. The thing was tall, fast, and incredibly strong. Much stronger than he was, especially now that his reserves of shadow essence were almost completely drained. Despite the fact that it was heavily wounded, both by his sword and by the claws of the chain worms, it still appeared agile, vigorous, and full of murderous spite. However, this fight was not going to be as suicidal as it might have seemed. There were 3 main reasons why Sunny felt confident in his chances of defeating the bizarre abomination. The first one was hanging on a thread tied around his neck. It was a beautiful amulet in the form of a crimson flower, the blood blossom. The fiend was bleeding heavily from the deep cut on its thigh, which had been left there by the sharp blade of the cruel sight, and from a multitude of ugly wounds delivered to the gaunt body of the monstrosity by the chain worms it had fought while traversing the heavenly chain. The more black blood flowed from those wounds, the more the morbid charm memory enhanced both the puppeteer's shroud and the cruel sight, as well as any other memory Sonny would want to use. The second reason was rather simple, and it was the fundamental difference between the two of them. The abomination might have been stronger and faster than Sonny, but it lacked his combat skill and insight. As long as the gap in power was not absolutely overwhelming, a polished technique could turn the tide of any battle. More than that, fighting things that were bigger and more powerful than him was more or less Sonny's specialty by now. However, the third reason was the most important, and the one he hoped to exploit the most. Yes, the fiend was stronger than Sonny, but it was also much, much larger and heavier than him. That meant that it was going to be affected by the crushing much more. No matter how bad it was going to get for Sonny, it was going to be many times worse for the towering abomination. Out here on the Chained Isles, being small and lithe was sometimes a great advantage. Feeling the burden of the crushing pressing down on him more and more, Sonny raised his sword and aimed it at the bizarre fiend. Let's see which one of us is going to break first.